Now let me close this, and let's actually add some interactivity. I'm going to zoom in, and there are 3 little buttons on the glasses here. I'm going to turn those into interactive buttons. I'm going to start with the right button. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to set the current selection. Group 218 should be all right. I happen to know that because I've already explored the geometry of my glasses. So with that selected, I'm going to go up to the Tools menu, and I'm going to make this a button. This will take that entire piece of my geometry and convert it into a button for me. This is going to be my close button. Okay, and before I lose that, I want to make sure I rename it. So I'm going to right-click it in the timeline, rename, and this is going to be my close button. Okay, now when the user clicks on this, I want to close my application. So just like we did before, add an event handler, go to the click, and close app. All of the techniques that I've used before for closing my application, for creating event handlers, all of that works here just the same way, except instead of dropping buttons down on my artboard and modifying them, I'm just taking pieces of the design from Expression Design, converting them to buttons, and working with them the same way. So here inside my Close app, I'm just going to do a this.close. Let me switch back over to Blend, press F5, and now when I click on that button, my application closes. Now the user doesn't really have a lot of feedback to know that that button's actually going to do something, so let me add a property trigger to it to change the color when the mouse enters it. So I'm going to right-click my button and edit the template. Now, I need to find an element in my tree that I'm going to be able to use to set the color. To do that, I need to be able to view the properties over in the Property Inspector, and I'm going to go into my geometry to try to find an element that's going to match. When I select Path to 20, you can see over in the Property Inspector that this one has got a black fill, so this is probably doing most of my button. I'm going to try that one, and I'm going to change the fill to red when the mouse is over this particular button. To do that, I'm going to add a property trigger. I'm going to say activated when the is mouse over is true. When that happens, I want my button to turn red. Now that it's turned red, you can also see that the word button has appeared. This is a side effect of the Make New Button. It always puts a content presenter into your buttons as soon as you create it. Now you can remember from previous lessons how useful the content presenter can be, but in this particular circumstance, I don't want that content presenter. So I'm just going to select it in my tree and delete it. Now I'm going to press F5, my glasses come up, and as soon as the mouse gets near that button, it lights up in red for a visual indicator to the user that clicking on this is going to do something. So in a very short period of time, I've taken a design, added a button, and even added some feedback to change the value of the button and change the appearance so that my user knows it's going to do something. I'm going to do that 2 more times. On the other 2 buttons on the earpiece, these ones are going to be called play and pause. Let's scope back to the main document. Let's right-click the button, set my current selection to that group. Yep, it's already there. Go to my tools and make that a button. This is going to be my play button. And again, I want to rename it so I don't lose it. This time, just to be different, I'm going to rename it in the Property Inspector. Let me go ahead and set the other button as well. Go to my tools, make it a button, and this is my stop button. Name it accordingly. And let's go ahead and add the property triggers for those so the user can once again see that they're interactive. Edit my template. This is the stop button. I'm going to make this one yellow when the user clicks on it. I already have an is mouse over property trigger, so I'll just select that, go into my geometry, select the base path, and change the fill to yellow. Make sure I get rid of that content presenter, and my stop button is ready. One more time with the play button. Edit the template. Move in. Select my path. Make sure I have the right property selected in the property triggers. And I'm going to change this one to green. Get rid of my content presenter. And we're set. Now when I press F5, you'll see that all three of those buttons change their color as I approach. So I've gone from a flat design to a more visually responsive experience. Now let's add the interactivity and make it actually do something.